Welcome, this is our Thursday, March 31, 2016 edition of the Government News Brief. In the news, foreign ministers to participate in CELAC in the Dominican Republic, miners need to conform to mining practices, and framework being crafted to freeze terrorist assets. The details of these and other stories when the news brief continues. Stay tuned. Thank you for staying with us. I am Azim Khan and this is the Government News Brief. Guyana could be questioning the lack of engagement by the private sector arm of the IDB Guyana office at the bank's annual meeting next month. Here are the details.
The InterAmerican Investment Corporation, the private sector arm of the InterAmerican Development Bank, which provides project financing in the form of direct loans, equity investment and lines of credit to the private sector, has not been active in Guyana in the past year. Finance Minister Winston Jordan could be raising this issue when he attends the 31st annual meeting of the Board of Governors of the IIC in the Bahamas later this year.
Because the IIC has not been active in Guyana, and this we have flagged with them that we have not, because the IIC is for private sector. And last year we increased our shares in the IIC so that private sector, to maintain our original quota, and so that the private sector itself will have access to that particular set of resources. So we have asked them to, in this revamping that they're doing, that they pay more attention, not only to the Caribbean, but to Guyana in particular, which they haven't done in the past.
The 57th annual meeting of the Board of Governors of the Inter-American Development Bank and the 31st annual meeting of the Board of Governors of the Inter-American Investment Corporation will be held from the 7th to the 10th of April 2016. Ghana will be represented at this meeting by Finance Minister Jordan, the Governor General of the Bank of Guyana, Dr. Gobin Ganga, and Head of the Multilateral Financial Institution Division of the Ministry of Finance, Shireen Isaacs. Each year in late March or early April, the Boards of Governors of the IDB and the IIC meet in one of the bank's member countries. This official gathering is a forum for discussions among the institution's governors, most of whom are finance ministers of the regional and non-regional member countries, central bank presidents, and advisors. Representatives from various multilateral financial institutions, developmental agencies, and commercial, along with investment banks, also attend these events.
Foreign ministers from the Caribbean and Latin American countries will be meeting in the Dominican Republic on April 1 to address issues affecting the bloc. More in this report.
The CELAC meeting will see decisions being made about regional integration and the preparations for the heads of state and the government meeting scheduled for later in the year.
CELAC is a pivot between the region and its counterparts elsewhere. CELAC enables us to speak in the context of a larger grouping, which can be for bigger countries sitting opposite us a more attractive prospect than trying to deal with a set of small countries, as they say, and fashioning policy for those. So it will have to do with coordinating policy. Coordinating policy has to do with economic resources, human and financial resources for development projects.
The meeting will see policy formulation and the coordination of political and economic positions on key issues to the region. Additionally, relations between CELAC and the European Union, the African Union, China, and other regional bodies will be reviewed. The foreign minister is concerned that the number of simultaneous meetings that will be happening would pose a challenge for Guyana and the Caribbean.
It is perhaps a test of our capacity to field significant teams that can impact on the decision making and avoid some of the problems that may arise, for example, in relation to being in the right place when a decision is being concluded in a subcommittee, because if you're not there, the subcommittee makes a decision, there's the possibility that it will come to the plenary, and because of time constraints, you may not have time to or the opportunity to reopen it.
Other issues to be discussed include the rules of procedure and deciding on the next pro tempore chairmanship of the next CELAC summit. The Community of Latin American and the Caribbean States, CELAC, is a regional bloc of 33 Latin American and the Caribbean states. It aims to unite all of the Latin American and Caribbean states in order to strengthen the political, social, and cultural integration of the region, improve its quality of life, stimulate its economic growth, and advance the well-being of all of its people. For this Government News Brief, Glendon Greenwich.
A report into miners' debt points to the need for miners to conform to proper mining practices. Here are the details.
The inquiry into the death of miner Trenton Sebastian is pointing to the need for a different approach to educate miners on the dangers of their job. Sebastian died on March 14 after the mining pit he was working at Madia caved in. Head of the inquiry, Major General retired Joseph Singh, says the whole area needs to be re-examined.
That place is now a moonscape. And what I found and what I would advise is that an assessment be done of that entire area, White Hole, Red Hole, Elizabeth, because what we were finding is that in the absence of jobs and job creation within the area, many persons are running high risks. This particular incident highlighted what came out in the report of the Commission of Inquiry headed by Dr. Grantley Waldron.
Singh noted that the previous Grantley Waldron COI should continue to be a guide for proper mining practices, pointing out that many of the miners are illiterate and this presents a unique set of challenges.
Giving them documents to read is not going to make the impact. I've asked in this report that diagrammatic, simple visual aids be created, be made available at mines offices, that mines officers, when they're going around doing their visits, they take this around. Wherever videos and so on can be used to good effect, that be done.
The report into Sebastian's death was presented to Minister of Natural Resources Raphael Trotman, who expressed sympathy to the family, observing that the government is taking mining accidents very seriously.
So this report, I'm thankful, will, in a sense, keep the memory of Trenton Sebastian alive, because we don't want any miner's death to go without a report, an inquiry which leads to a report, and more importantly, this report, standing alongside the Waldron report, will hopefully lead in the shortest possible time to improved mining practices.
Despite regulatory compliance tours by the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission officers in the mining districts, miners continue to play a casual attitude to safe mines practices. The COI into Sebastian's death was completed before its due date.
Citizens will benefit from a better understanding of the public health system and the types of care they can access in and out of their communities. Shivani Rampasad tells us more.
Guidelines to help persons understand what services they can expect at the various healthcare facilities would be released shortly. It is part of Health Vision 2020, says Dr. K. Sheko, the Director of Regional Health Services.
Package of publicly guaranteed health services actually saying is that when you go to a particular healthcare facility, let's say level 1, which is a health post, is that this is a certain level of care that you're expected to have as a patient, and also what is the level of healthcare provider you're expected to see. So now if in region 1 you go to a health post, well then you're only expected to see a community health worker, and that's the level of care you're going to have. Whereby if you go at Diamond Regional Hospital or New Amsterdam Hospital, you're going to be having the basic services, and you expect to have care in obstetrics and gynae, pediatrics, internal medicine, general surgery.
Issues that affect the department and aid in the development of policies to correct them were highlighted at the recent Regional Health Services Department retreat. Similar issues were identified at a meeting of regional health officers, all pointing to the need for clear policy guidelines.
Regional Health Services Department is tasked with the mandate of ensuring that there is adequate and appropriate health care across the 10 administrative regions. Now, in regional health services, what we currently need is policies to ensure that healthcare is effectively executed across the 10 regions. To ensure that we have these policies, recently we had a regional health services retreat at Lake Mainstay, whereby staff from the different departments within the Ministry of Public Health came together, as well as staff from PAHO and UNICEF. And what we did was came together and looked at the issues that exist within the department and see how we can put those together to formulate policies.
A service level agreement is being developed between government and regional health services, which identifies the 5 levels of care and the services offered at each. When the policies are implemented, it is expected that the citizens would have access to a higher quality of health care and encounter less conflicts at healthcare facilities. For this government news brief, Shivani Rambasad reporting.
Consultations on anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism framework to freeze terrorist assets held. Here are the details.
Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Basil Williams says Guyana will meet the requirements for freezing terrorist assets. He was speaking at a stakeholder consultation on the draft Anti-Money Laundering, Countering the Financing of Terrorism (AML-CFT) Amendment Bill 2016.
With regard to freezing of assets and ongoing prohibitions under both United Nations Security Council resolutions, including delisting requests, guidance to financial institutions, and gaining access to frozen funds for necessary expenses.
Stakeholders had an opportunity to provide their input on the proposed 2016 amendments at the session hosted by the Attorney General in his chambers. It was agreed that under United Nations resolutions, Guyana is allowed to freeze terrorist assets and funds.
We at the stage where you're going to pass gazetting, you're going to pass the 6 months. The director now has to publish the name on the website. When it is published, I'm saying the procedure is mutatis mutandis, the same as on the 1267.
The purpose of the consultations on the proposed AML-CFT Amendment Bill 2016 forms part of the preparatory measures to make the bill appropriate for submission to Parliament. The bill attempts to treat with the remaining recommendation under the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, Regime Action Plan Number 6, which speaks to identifying, tracing, and freezing terrorist assets to settle the recommendation of the bill. In October 2014, Guyana made a high-level political commitment to work with FATF and the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, CFATF, to address its strategic AML-CFT deficiencies. In June 2015, Guyana took steps toward improving its AML-CFT regime, including passing the AML-CFT Amendment Bill 2015. Renetta LaFleur, Government News Brief.
This has been another edition of the Government News Brief. You can find the details of these and other stories on GINA's website. We encourage you to subscribe to our website and YouTube channel. You can also like us on Facebook so you can be informed as the news unfolds. Join us again tomorrow for another edition of the Government News Brief. Thank you for watching.